ink-a-dink, 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 ink-a-dink. Wow. Okay, so we're going to go on in a couple of minutes, and okay, is that supposed to be a disguise? Okay. Well, somebody else thinks it's funny too. Let's just take this quick call because I have a feeling who it's going to be, and I don't know if you want him on the show yet. Good morning, Basil BuddhaCat presents. I thought so. Basil, it's Texas Governor Rick Perry calling back with, he wants to make a comment. We're still off camera, right? Oh, okay. Hold on, Governor Perry. Good morning. This is Basil BuddhaCat Presents. My name is David Stevenson. I'm Basil's co-host, interpreter, and chief gopher. Basil BuddhaCat, of course, in center slot. And we have back with us, he's graciously stayed with us over the weekend and enjoyed all the comforts of home at Kristen and my house. But this is Deadpan. And first of all, Deadpan, is that really your name? Is your name really Deadpan? Yes, he is. And do you have any idea? Oh, hold on, Governor Perry. We're just going through a couple of notes here, and then we'll be right with you, if Basil wants to. But hold on a second. Please hold on. He says he's not quite sure why Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, John Roberts, named him Deadpan, except he took kind of a liking to him. And he thought that that was a real good name for a cat living in, well, Deadpan calls it a humorless household, but I think it's maybe more safe to say a low-key household. Did you want to talk a little bit about the young man that's been supposedly taking care of you while Chief Justice Roberts has been in Europe? You'll hold that thought for a moment. Okay, Governor Perry, you have a comment you wanted to make? Okay, Governor Perry. Okay, yes, Governor Rick Perry of Texas, that we have on the line, is calling in, and he wants to note that he has a remark from the collective soul of the American Tea Party designed for Deadpan to bring back to Chief Justice John Roberts when they once again meet in the household that John Roberts and Deadpan reside in. He's saying, okay, I want to get the proper accent on it. Okay, hold on a second, Governor Perry. Governor Perry says, did I get that right? Okay, yeah, he says it's right. Governor Perry, what's your take on this? I mean, how is this going to affect the state of Texas, for instance? Okay, Governor Perry says that that they'll figure someplace else to appeal this decision to, even if it has to be to God himself, and ask God perhaps to roll back the clock, do a little, a little arm twisting on Chief Justice John Roberts, and get him to rethink his socialistical decision. Socialistical? Either you borrowed that one from Leo G. Gorcey from the Bowery Boys, or Rodney Dangerfield, or you coin your own phrase. That's interesting. Okay, we'll try to get back to you during the show if we have any additional need for discussion with you, Governor Perry. Thank you. Okay. So we're going to try, since it's our Sunday morning show, to put a little bit more of a religious spin on this. And I think Basil has some questions for Deadpan, not specifically in terms of what John Roberts has said, but what Deadpan actually thinks. Because Basil says that he really believes that what Deadpan thinks and believes is much more worthwhile listening to than what any Supreme Court Chief Justice has to say. Okay, so with that, Basil, go ahead. What questions do you have for Deadpan, and we'll see if we can get some interesting replies and some good heartfelt thought from him. Okay, Basil's asking Deadpan whether he thinks that the Affordable Care Act, also known as ObamaCare, whether that's something that would pass muster with our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Okay, yep. Okay, Deadpan's passing his answer back to me via Basil. Deadpan's saying that he does think it in fact would pass muster. And although Deadpan is not a Christian, Deadpan actually, by dint of living in the household with John Roberts and seeing what he calls the shenanigans that go on there, Deadpan has actually become a Scientologist. And he says he's had some interesting telepathic conversations with Tom Cruise. And gotten to know Tom Cruise and Tom's wife, Katie, who, as you know in the audience, know that they're in the process of working through what may become a pretty ugly divorce situation. And okay, and Deadpan thinks that the whole Scientology thing probably had a lot to do with the breakup of that relationship. And it's interesting. So now, taking yourself outside of the realm of Scientology and bringing yourself into the realm of Christianity, or actually either of the other two world religions, major world religions, that would be Islam and Judaism. Do you think that the Affordable Care Act passes muster for doing the right thing by not just the poor, but by middle-class Americans? And what do you think? Okay. Okay, Deadpan says that he thinks that it certainly does, to the best of his knowledge, it certainly does pass muster and fits not only with the thinking of the three major world religions, but also and we've found this to be fairly accurate also, Deadpan. Deadpan saying that he's met a lot of agnostics and atheists in his lifetime, and he feels very firmly that on average they behave in just as Christian, if you will, just as they behave themselves just as well, certainly, as Christians, and they tend to be just as good people on average. Some good, every religion, every belief, or every way of approaching life has a few people that don't follow what they say they believe. But at any rate, so really, okay, yep. Oh, okay. Hold that thought, Deadpan. I almost called him Death Panel. Sorry. Good morning, Basil BuddhaCat presents. Okay, it's Basil, we spoke to Elsie on one of our early shows, and this is actually Elsie calling in again. And Elsie, it's good to hear from you again. What do you have something to add to the conversation? Do you have a question for Deadpan, who, as you know, is the house cat of John Roberts, Chief Justice of Supreme Court, John Roberts? Elsie says, well, she says she's not sure, but she thinks that it's safe to say that cats, as well as cows, are pretty much on the same wavelength as far as this goes. And Elsie's had some conversations. Of course, Elsie lives on a farm with about 40 other. It's about 40 head of cattle. Yeah, she's about 40. Are they all dairy cows? Elsie says, yeah, she thinks they're all dairy cows. I mean, nobody's sneaking up behind her or anything. But yeah, so she says that she's pretty sure they're all dairy cows. And she says that, I want to make sure I get this right, Elsie. She says she really does believe that cows, in fact, as some of the greater world religions, maybe not the big three, but some of the greater world religions and the more ethereal world religions, in her words, hold cows to be on a higher plane than not only human beings, but also on a higher plane than cats. Okay, we'll have a moment, take a moment, discuss that, and keep watching via satellite, and we'll get back with you. Hold on a second. Basil says that he really thinks that she's pretty accurate, that cows, in fact, at this moment in time, are probably higher on the moral evolutionary scale than perhaps even cats. Basil's conceding that perhaps even on a higher moral scale than cats. What do you think, Deadpan? Deadpan's giving me the expression. Yes? Yeah. Says it's a lot to digest. And he probably wants to consult with his attorney, Justice Roberts, before he responds to that. Okay, that's reasonable. Okay, okay, Elsie, did you hear that? Okay, we're gonna get back to our discussion, and perhaps we'll have some more callers in, and we may talk to you again at a future date. Thanks for calling. So, what do you think? Do you think it's safe to say that? Do you really think that? Do you follow what Deadpan's saying, Basil? Do you think he makes a good case for Chief Justice John Roberts' decision and his thinking in joining the majority on the ruling on the Affordable Care Act? Okay, well that's hold on. Good morning, Basil BuddhaCat presents. Oh. Okay, it's again, it's Chief Justice John Roberts who called in on Friday night show and was pretty irate about the fact that the Deadpan had come on a TV show and talked about his rationale for voting the way he did on the Affordable Care Act. And for those of you who didn't watch Friday night's show, Deadpan explained that he's overheard in conversations, overheard in what he refers to as singing in the shower by Justice Roberts. And he's overheard that the reason why Justice Roberts voted the way he did on the Affordable Care Act, voting that it was legal and constitutional for the Congress to impose mandatory health care insurance, health care coverage to virtually all Americans and having them pay according to their ability for that health care coverage, based on the fact that he felt that voting against it, like the other four conservative judges did, the other four right-wing judges, Antonin Scalia, Sam Alito, Anthony Kennedy, and Clarence Thomas, to vote to strike the taxation portion of the Affordable Care Act down would have opened the doors for people to sue, claiming that they should not be forced to purchase, to pay into Medicare and Social Security, because if the government could not force them, if Congress could not pass an act enforcing purchase of health care coverage, that they neither had the ability to force people to buy into, to pay into Social Security and Medicare, and you'd have a lot of lawsuits evolving out of that, claiming that based on the one ruling that the other purchase of Medicare and Social Security was also unconstitutional. And furthermore, he also, and Deadpan, I'm going to get this, I want to make sure I get this exactly right, because you say you were there, you heard all his musings, all his opinings on the matter, all his conversations with self, so to speak, and also phone conversations and personal conversations with other justices, that he felt like if people could not be forced to buy health care coverage, that you'd have lawsuits claiming that states did not have the power to force people to buy auto insurance. That auto insurance should be optional, that if people want to take a chance driving around without auto insurance, and chance that they might get into an accident, might harm somebody, might cause huge amounts of damage, that they should be able to put money away in their piggy bank, so to speak, to pay off any claims against them. And if they didn't have enough money to pay it off, then I guess basically the term is too bad. Okay. Yep. Deadpan says that's pretty much the way he looks at it. It's pretty much the way he heard it from Chief Justice Roberts' own mouth. Okay. Well. Okay, you've got to think about what anything more you want to add to your comments. We'll get back to you, and we'll talk a little further. Chief Justice Roberts is Chief Justice Roberts, Supreme Court Justice, Chief Justice Roberts, and he's still there. He says the subpoena is going to be on the doorstep Monday morning. Okay, thanks. How does this make you feel? Deadpan. Does this, tell the audience, tell us, you say you don't look for the same prism that Basil and I look through, that being a Christian religiously and a Buddhist philosophically. I said prism, not prison. Okay, he was a little worried that maybe we'd be hogtying him and assisting Chief Justice Roberts in sending him back home. How did he put that? I think Chief Justice Roberts said something about handcuffed inside a cat carrier, inside a satchel, inside a burlap bag with a rock tied to it, hanging on a very unstable cargo door of a jet plane. Okay, and I don't know about his. Well, maybe you could comment on that, Deadpan. Would Chief Justice Roberts say something like that? Would he be speaking in a mildly amusing, kind of joking kind of way with that, or would he be, Deadpan says, That man's dead serious. Okay, well, we'll take that as a thought. Okay, well, what else would you like to talk about? Did you have any thoughts on the show we did with the other Basil from Sanford, Florida, and the Buddha when they came to visit us and talk about the Trayvon Martin household and the George Zimmerman household? And have you heard anything more about that? Basil, have you heard anything more about that through the grapevine? Huh. Okay. Hold on. Thank you for calling Basil BuddhaCat Presents. Okay, it's our friend, Pennsylvania Senator, former Pennsylvania Senator Rick Santorum. And do you have a question? Do you have a comment, Mr. Santorum? Yeah, he's saying he's still thinking about that primary season, and he wants a recount. He wants to take this to the convention floor. He says he wants to prove to the world that Mitt Romney, especially now in light of RomneyCare and ObamaCare getting the thumbs up from the Supreme Court, he really wants to have a long discussion about that on the floor of the convention. Okay, we're passing that on, and what do you think of the ruling? I guess obviously it's safe to say you're disappointed in the ruling. Okay, former Senator Rick Santorum saying, oh, okay. He's speaking. He's quoting from Revelations now, chapter. No, there's not a chapter 23. You know that. Come on. He says there is now. He says that all these guys are going to get smitten down. All of them. And the powerful hand of the Lord shall rise up and shall take care of them in no uncertain fashion. Okay. That's something to think about and to discuss, and maybe we'll have you back on a future show to talk a little bit about that. But there is no chapter 23 of Revelations, by the way. Yeah, he just repeated, there is now. Okay, thanks for calling. Okay. So, Basil, what do you think about the fact that I've been... Do you want me to do a little bit more translating for you verbatim in cat, and then translate for the audience through cat or Catanese, actually. Sometimes Basil speaks Catanese. He's sort of drifted back toward speaking his native language, but he still likes the language that he developed after becoming good friends with friend of Progressive Soup, John Kasumi, the head of the Chinese democracy movement. And of course, just a quick reminder to the folks that haven't watched this show regularly, John Kasumi, who's head of the Chinese democracy movement and a frequent guest of Progressive Soup, friended Basil on Facebook. And when he became friends with Basil, Basil began getting some friend recommendations of people whose names we couldn't really decipher because they were in Chinese characters. And because of that, Basil began taking a look. He didn't want to learn to speak Mandarin because that's the official language of the Chinese Communist Party and therefore the official language of China. But Basil took a look at the more countrified language, Cantonese, and learned to speak that. And from there, devised his own variation on Cantonese, which he calls Catanese. Okay, Basil, have you had any... I haven't talked to John in a while. Have you talked to John recently? Basil says he's amazed that John Kasumi is still safe because he's such a thorn in the side of the Chinese Communist Party. But, having said that, he thinks he's okay. Okay. Do you mind if I take, I think, Deadpan, I think we all know it's you. So I think it's safe to say that we could probably, let Deadpan be Deadpan. We know the expression. We might as well have it showing. And let's wrap up our show unless you have something more to add. Deadpan says, before he left to come here, he already prepared, with the help of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, he already prepared a countersuit against his owner, John Roberts. And what are the details of that suit? Can you share those with us, or should we wait till Justice Roberts gets home and finds the paper on his doorstep? Okay, Deadpan says he doesn't want to say too much because he's saving it up for his upcoming book, My Life in a Doggedly Conservative Household, by Deadpan. P.S. I am the house cat of the John Roberts family. Okay. So you really have nothing else to add beyond that about your upcoming suit? He says he wants to save a lot of it for the book, but he will let out a couple of quick tidbits. He says that part of the suit will be to have Chief Justice Roberts apologize to him personally and take out an ad in every major periodical in the United States and make that apology official. And beyond that, kids, you'll just have to read it. And with that, this has been Basil BuddhaCat Presents. I'm David Stevenson, Basil's co-host, chief interpreter, and chief gopher. Center slot, Basil BuddhaCat, and our guests, both Friday evening and this fine Sunday morning, Deadpan, who is, as you know, the house cat of the John Roberts family, Chief Justice John Roberts of the Supreme Court. Thanks. Enjoy your day. They say they'd rob your grandma blind on Wall Street, fritter her away her Medicare on Wall Street. And Pharma Oil and their pet fox don't care if she lives in a box, so long as they wear platinum jocks on Wall Street, Meow.